Welcome to Busy Mom Talk, real talk for real moms. I'm your host, Kia, mom of two. So if you're juggling kids, coffee, and chaos, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Welcome back to another episode of Busy Mom Talk. Today we have Alex Weisseneder. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So do you want to give us a little introduction of like who you are, what you do, kind of all the fun stuff?
Yeah, for sure. So my name's Alex. I'm a mom of two boys and I'm pretty much home with them. I call myself like a full-time work from home mom, but a part-time stay-at-home mom. And then on social media, I just share about my life, my kids, outfits, pretty much anything that like makes my life easier because I'm a little bit chaotic. So just anything that makes that run smoothly. And I share that for everyone to see.
I love how you say like part-time stay-at-home mom because I think that is so important that people don't realize that when you work from home, you get this extra burden and extra layer that most people don't talk about.
It is actually so much harder. So that transition is very new to me. I only stopped working in an office December. So like this new year, being home with the kids was new. And I keep saying to my husband or my partner that we're not married, but I started calling him my husband, but I usually say my partner. He's like, "Can you call me your husband?" Um, Being home with the kids is so much harder than going to work.
I agree with you 100%.
There's just so much more regulation and like there's no downtime like at all. Even if you have work to get done, it's like a constant mental battle of trying to deal with that. And I have two boys, so it's just chaos.
I have a girl and a boy, so I couldn't imagine. And I feel like so many people think once you work from home or you become like a micro influencer or whatever, that everything is so much easier that they don't realize. Even content creation, it takes so long and it's so mentally draining. It's not like when you get home from work, you can like kick your feet up and enjoy the rest of your day. It's not ending.
You're like constantly on and like to make the content, to edit the content, and like it's not one of those jobs where you just like close your laptop and like you're home. It's a lot. And I do like not only do I do my own content, but I do help other people with theirs. So there is like I do have to actually make sure things are on a schedule and done on time. So just balancing that when I do have the kids at home.
Yeah, so let's kind of get into that. Like, how did you get into content creation?
I don't know. I want to say around the pandemic, like most people, that is really when it took off. So when I was working in a sales position and I was in a spa sales position. So a lot of that like shut down right away. And I was always into it. I just at that time, like before the pandemic, I feel like it was such like a specific category and it wasn't really like people weren't really like doing it full time, but like you were blogging, like you had a website, you were blogging, and like I tried to do it but I have a really hard time like focusing on that. And then yeah, during the pandemic I think everyone just took to social media, and so I just started sharing um outfits and life and like trying to figure out how to get like affiliates. Like it was just so new at that time. And then, yeah, I was just doing that, and then I started working at CGSI, and, like, that really put me into the lane of content creation for the company, and then that just, like, projected my personal content as well and my personal growth on that, and then from there, I just kept going with it, and it's like a slow uphill battle. I'm definitely not as nearly as large as there like, a lot of other people on there, but I also don't put like my full 100% effort into it because, like we mentioned, it's just like a lot of mental work and you really have to like be in that mindset. And yeah, and then I just started kind of doing my own thing on there and getting a lot of positive reactions. Mainly because people were like, thank you for showing your messy house. Like, thank you for showing the realness and not just like some aesthetic house. And like, listen, I praise the moms that can like honestly keep their houses like that. But like, I can't do it. So my house is a mess. Like things are all over the place. My kids are covered in mud. Like it's just what it is. And I started getting a lot of positive feedback from other moms who could really relate to that. And then I realized, wow, there's actually not a lot of mom content that looks like that. Like a lot of it, like, and social media is curated. Like I'm not out here showing every like negative quote unquote piece of it because like I'm in the thick of it, but there isn't a lot showing like this is what my living I have a living room playroom. I don't have a separate playroom. My kids aren't playing in a separate room. Like we are a living room family. Like this is where our toys are. My kitchen table is a craft table. Like that's what it is. Like there's stuff everywhere. And just I think the positive feedback kept me going, and then just like realistic outfits that to me I wasn't really thinking anything of it, but people were like, no, I love this because like I'm actually going to pick my kids up in that, I'm actually going to go to the park in that, like I can get dirty in that. And I think it was just kind of something I zoned in on, which was something I was already doing in my life. And then people just it was just getting some positive feedback.
Yeah, I think that's why I started following you because you would post things that weren't like you weren't wearing outfits that are like people are not going to wear as well in the daily life, you know? And like
Yeah.
everyone does want to look presentable, but I think like of course we're not going to wear like a satin long dress to pick up our kids every day from school with like 6-inch heels and you know, it's not realistic.
It's not realistic. Like, I don't even wear summer dresses anymore because I don't know, for me, it just does not suit my lifestyle because especially if I'm out and about, it's just not gonna work for me. But yeah, so that's just how that went.
So did you ever have times when you were in this though that you thought, "Oh, I need to step back and go back to like a regular job, like quote unquote?"
So that is what happened. So after mat leave with my second, I made the decision not to go back to the styling firm for a few reasons. Also, I don't live close by. So we moved, and I was like, I don't know if it was postpartum. I don't know if it was just me being like, this isn't realistic. This isn't substantial. And I got an office job, which I liked. It was great, but it just didn't work out on both ends. It was like, it did not work out. And then I was like, what am I going to do? Like I started applying for jobs, and every time I would get an interview or move forward, I would get like anxiety. And I was like, I can't do this. Like, I just it just wasn't feeling right. So I was like, I think I'm going to focus more on my content. Like I already had that rolling, but like I said, like I wasn't putting a lot of effort into it. So I started doing that, and then I just kind of reconnected with people that I have connected in the past. So I do help on another podcast called The Mom Room. So I do help with Renee there, and then I just help people with their social media and admin. So it gives me a little bit of like structure, but I'm working for myself. And I feel like even though it's harder being at home, I just have like a relief that I didn't have to go back to Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And like, it's not over my head that I'm really lucky to do that. And it's not like, and it kind of just happens. Like, I'm still getting into the groove of like not being in rushing mode all the time. Like, I literally don't have to rush with my kids, but I'll find myself getting into that like zone of like, we have to like do this, and this. But yeah, I'm really lucky. I have a large support system around me as well, like from my partner to my parents and my in-laws. They do help me with the kids a lot, but it's just not going. I was like, I need to figure out how not to go back to an office because I don't want to.
And I think too that like once you have 2 children, it feels like 9. And everyone that I say, they say that the second transition wasn't as hard, but then once they get older and they're not sleeping all the time and like life starts to pick back up, it is chaos. Like
It's chaos.
even my like SUV, it just feels so tiny and that it feels like there's 90 people in there when there's only 3
Hmm.
of us and it is so hard to navigate everything and people don't tell you that when you have one child and you're expecting your second.
No, it's a lot. It's a lot of work. Like you said, once they become like mobile, it's game over. It's game over.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even the moms that have more than 2 children, like I genuinely don't know how they do it with work and especially when 2 parents I think work out of the house, it is like time crunch by when you pick them up to bedtime and
Yeah, and you know what? With my first, um, I feel like I had to sacrifice a lot and give up a lot. A, because I just thought that's what you had to do. And B, it like after the pandemic, like I lost some of my mat leave. I had to go back to work earlier. Then I moved and we were commuting and I was like, oh, like I would miss bedtime all the time. And I feel like I missed like such a huge portion of that. Um, that I felt so bad. Like I felt so bad for missing these big pieces that most moms and dads and parents or caregivers do miss because like we have to be working.
yeah, and don't get me wrong, I think everyone has this thing that they think that it's like a luxury to be able to work from home and stuff, but you really do miss out on things. Like people think that like I live a luxurious life because I get to be with my kids all the time, but then you're taking away from everything else that you might have done if you weren't in that position, right? So I think there's this notion of like what you prioritize almost or what you can prioritize. And again, it is like a luxury to say that you can prioritize family time, but it's also the mental well-being of being with your kids 24/7.
Yeah, and it's so funny. I used to hear people on social media talk about stay-at-home moms, and I'd be like, "Yeah, like I totally agree on weekends. Like I want to go do like I want to go do the house stuff and like you can watch the kids." And like I always was like, "Yeah, no, that's right," but I never truly felt it until now because I'm like, "Yeah, like I want to like I know you have to work, but like I work all the time and I actually work so on top of that, so on weekends, I'm like, no, you're getting up with the kids. Like I'm sleeping in. Like I was saying to Paolo, like my brain is 50% on the weekends. Cause I am like, I don't know if you notice with your boy and your girl, but the boys are like obsessed with me. Like all they want is mom. And I don't know if that's across the board, but like
Both my
want
kids.
you, yeah. So and
Yes.
it's like I'm just being pulled on. They like my hair. They want hugs. They want to be held. I'm like, you guys. So I'm like, Daddy can do that. Daddy can do that. And they're like, no, I need mommy to get my snack. I need mommy to do this. But yeah, on weekends I'm like 50% off. I'm like, I started just put not doing the mental load things, and then Paulo just slowly started like picking up on them. Even if things get dropped, I'm just like, oh well.
I think that's what's hard is like dropping your expectation that everything can't be 100% because I think social media plays into this role in everyone's brain that everyone else does this, but I don't think anyone really does it.
No, they don't. And I think that's where like you also, if you're looking, whether you're looking at my profile or someone else's, like it's social media. So you are still seeing most of the positive things because no one's recording when there's like meltdowns happening. Like I'm not for like because I'm trying to like calm myself down because I get very triggered and like very overstimulated. And like for the respect of my kids, like I have to calm them down. And like I feel like I read somewhere the other day that was like self-regulating because self-regulation is the hardest part about being a mom, which is why I think being a stay-at-home mom is the hardest because you're constantly regulating yourself and trying to calm these little kids down. But I read somewhere it was like self-regulating doesn't necessarily mean you have to be super calm. It just means you have to be aware enough not to freak out at your kids. And like I was like, thank you. I love that because I might not be super calm and I might have a little bit of a tone, but I'm like not yelling at them.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it because I used to think that before when I only had one child, I was so patient, like I couldn't understand why people were so frustrated with their kids, and then my son turned 3 and then I started seeing all of the different things that I never seen before.
I didn't notice anything until like three and a half as well. Like I didn't have what they call like quote unquote terrible twos and like
Neither did I.
mine started later, which was almost harder because they're way more competent and like way more smarter. Like you can't really trick them all the time. But I'm also very into like I always say if I could start over in a career again, I'd probably go into like some kind of like child development or childcare situation because I'm so into understanding your child's brain development and like what like meeting them where they are at because I think we put so much expectations once they hit that like 3 5 because you think they understand so much, but they're not. Like they don't. They can comprehend and they can have conversations, yes, compared to like a 1 or 2 year old, but like their brains are still so underdeveloped and like we are the adults. But we come from a generation where like we weren't necessarily taught how to do anything. And that's not a negative, like an attack on our parents. Like every generation, I think, learns a little bit more. And then like we like learn more and all this stuff. But I don't know, like if I think about my parents, like, and everyone else is around our age, like the moms were just like, it's okay, like, I'm just gonna do it, I'm just gonna do it. So like we're always taught what to do. So it's kind of like dealing with that. And then
No, you're right. You're honestly right on with that because I think too that especially when you have that second, you think of your child as an or older child, but you're almost forgetting they're 3 or they're 4 or they're 5 when you're expecting them to do something that an adult would do. And I always think of it this way. Like I even know like I'm only in like my late 20s, but like I still feel like I have adult tantrums sometimes when you feel like your life is falling apart. You feel upset, you want to cry and I mean as an adult, okay, I can't go on the floor and scream even though I want to. But yeah, like I don't think that people realize that it's so normal and I think it's this idea from society that kids can't be screaming in public. It's wrong. It's bad for them to do that, you know?
yeah, yeah, I know. It's crazy. I remember when I was going into labor with my second, he came early. So like I had all these plans to do with my first because I was like, like I feel so bad. I'm not going to have this one-on-one time because he was like 2.5, so he was still a baby. And I remember going into labor early and I started crying to Paolo. And I was like, I still am supposed to have like another 2 weeks with Sebi. Like, he's going to wake up and there's going to be a baby, like all this stuff. But I was so adamant on being like, I don't want people to go to Sebi, who is 2, to be like, you're the older brother now. Like, you're the big boy now. Like, you have to do these things now. And I have been like very strong in that position. I mean, he's 4.5 now, so he does like having more responsibility, which I'm also learning to parent different because I feel like once they hit 4, you have to change your parenting style. You're no longer parenting a toddler or a baby. And like that has been a realization to me because we were having a lot of power struggles. And I was like, what is happening? And I'm like, he needs more autonomy. So like I have to learn to do that. But I was just so strong in not being like, he's the big brother now. He's the older sibling. He has to do this when he's 2.
Yeah. And I think it's hard though for the older generations to realize that. Like I come from a European background. So even like my mom, I mean, God, I love my mom, but sometimes she'll be like, well, he's the older brother. Like he can't do that. Or like people don't tell you that your older one will hit your baby. I don't
Yeah.
know if you've ever experienced this, but I thought, what the hell is wrong with my child? He just
No,
hit my
it's so
baby.
normal.
It is
Yeah.
normal and it's a common thing, but nobody has ever said
I
that to me
know.
before.
And like, unless you have looked into it, your initial response is to like freak out and yell. And then like that, it's normal. But if you're surrounded by different generations or different style of parenting, it's so hard. And I just think in general there's just like, don't do this, don't do that, do this, do that. And like I do listen to a lot of like podcasts or like social media, but I've recently realized I've like tuned, like gone more intuitive with my parenting. So if something doesn't feel right, I don't take that direction. And I really think because of social media and just because of society, also, like we tend to be more isolated. We don't have as large as like a community, but I feel like going inwards and like really being more intuitive about how I'm handling my parenting has helped me so much because then I feel like I'm doing what like maternally I should be doing.
Yeah. I honestly feel you 100% on that because so many times people would say things like, oh, but don't do it this way, don't do it that way. And it's nice to hear other people, don't get me wrong. But
Yeah, for sure.
with my daughter, I lied to everybody. If I knew somebody sleep trained, I just said, okay, I sleep trained
Oh,
too.
yeah.
If I knew that they were all 4 bottles, I said, yeah, I bottle feed. I did breastfeed, but exclusively breastfed, never did a bottle. But I lied to everybody because I learned that it doesn't matter what anyone says, and it's just going to add to anxiety and a not good solution.
Absolutely. I co-slept with my second by choice.
Me too.
So my first pregnancy was like I was really scared. So we didn't plan to get pregnant. So me and my partner were only together for like about a year and it just happened. But like it was fine. Like it wasn't like we were young. Like I was 30. He was like we're both in our 30s. We were planning our life. It just happened sooner than we expected. So I was just nervous at that. Plus, we were in a pandemic. So I was just like very textbook pregnancy, textbook birth. I didn't do a lot of research and I had a hospital birth. Everything was fine. Like, you know, I'm very lucky I didn't have any issues with that. But I remember being in the hospital and I was like, I don't I don't like this. Like it didn't feel right, but I couldn't quite figure it out why. So it's like this is like where I'm supposed to be. This is what's supposed to happen, especially like after delivery. I was like, I just want to be home. Like I did not like it. So when my second one came around, I kept a lot of things to myself. I told people, but slowly because I was planning on having a home birth. I already was planning on co-sleeping. I already was doing planning on doing all these things that I was like told that you can't do with my first, which I feel like a lot of like second time moms and more will do that because you just understand like you just learn more and you become more comfortable. But like I would like tell people, I'm like, oh, I don't know, we co-sleep because like I need sleep when you have a second child. But the looks you would get, it was like, oh, you really shouldn't do that. Like that's so unsafe, like SIDS and all this stuff. And I'm like, if you actually research what everyone else does around the world and like the positive effects it has on you and the baby. And if you're not comfortable with it, like to each your own. Like if somebody comes to me and says they're doing parenting a certain way, I'm like, that's great. Like if that's what works for you, then that's what works for you. But people are so quick to like pass judgment or give their opinions. I feel like people just lost the way of like listening and just being like, that's great. Everyone's so like defensive all the time. It's crazy.
No, it's true, and I think that that's what happened with me, like, my partner brought my son in the bed at, like, 4 months because he wasn't sleeping, and I freaked out at first, be like, "He can't sleep in here, like, you sleep, you're a deep sleeper, it's not safe," and then I realized he's sleeping longer stretches, and then with my daughter, I didn't really I chose to co-sleep, but I also had issues where I was basically bedridden, so I just let her sleep with me from the very beginning, and like, I don't wanna jinx myself here, but she's always been a better sleeper than my son, and I swear it's because of that.
You know what? And I actually slept like we did sleep tuning with my first. We were more gentle with it, like whatever that means to other people. Like I had a hard time, but we definitely like did do that like 5, 10, 15, 20. And he we have to lay with him now to go to sleep. Like we literally cannot leave his room until he is asleep and he's 4.5. And then my youngest, who we co-slept, I think, until he was around like 5 or 6 months, we started to like transition him into his room. Um, it took a while though. Like he just started having like random nights. He's 2. He just started having like sleep through nights, but he can fall asleep and like he is fine and he can do all this. Like it's so funny. I'm like the one that we purposely try like sleep train now like needs us to fall asleep. So like I think you have to do what you have to do to survive in motherhood. And I just think that should be the mentality. And I also think moms should just be there for moms. Like just be there for mom.
Yes.
Like you are
Yes.
a mom. Like you are going through it. Like
Yes.
just be there for the mom.
And I think too, before I was a mom, I didn't realize like how toxic the mom community can be when you're not in the right place. So before I moved to Ottawa, I never ever felt like welcomed at mom groups, or I never felt like I had like a village. And then when I moved to Ottawa, it completely
You
changed.
found it. I never enjoyed the mommy and me classes. Like I tried to go and I was like, I can't do this. Like I don't know, maybe it's like where we live now, it's kind of the same thing. Like we moved out here. We don't have like friends or family out here. But I don't know. But I just think it's so hard. Maybe it's just being an adult and like making new friends.
No, it is. Trust
It's
me.
so hard. It's so hard to like do that. I'm like, maybe once they're in school and they like are with like their friends every day and you're with people from your neighborhood. But like it's so hard. You're like, hey, so you want to like go to the park.
Yeah, I think it's so intimidating too, because then it's like your kids are the same age, but then is your parenting styles gonna conflict? But I mean, if you want to let your kid cry it out and let them sleep, that's fine. I don't really care. It's not gonna affect me. But it's hard because you're opening yourself, you're being vulnerable, and then it's like so many different things. And I don't know about you, but none of my friends had babies the same times I did.
Same. So now with my second, yes, they're all like kind of close together. But with my first, like I don't have any friends with kids my oldest age. So like it's always like, okay, well, I'm gonna get together with like my best friend who has a baby who's 3 months like younger than Noah. And Sebby's fine, like he likes to like play with them, but I don't have anyone to be like, oh look, they're like the same age. He has some cousins, which is great, all around like a year or two difference. But yeah, I don't have anyone that has the exact same age as him. So I always feel so bad because he wants to make friends. Like he'll be at the park and he's like, oh, I want to play with somebody. And I'm like, oh, okay, like, you want mommy to play with you? He's like, no, I want to play with somebody because he'll see like another kid. And I'm like, okay, well, let's just like go up and ask to play with him. Yeah.
Yes. But so the one thing that I really was interested in and kind of was like, oh, I love this person's content was when you started posting about FPIES. But do you want to kind of give us your rundown with your experience with your kids in it?
Yeah. So I'm kind of, well, to start, I think if it, because it was my second, I feel like I was a little bit more like aware of the situation. Um, but basically for people who, because your kids have FPIES, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So, I mean, I'm sure you, I don't know if you've spoken about it before, but it's an allergy of the gut. That's how I explain it the best to people. So it happened to Noah, my youngest. I want to say he was around like 6 or 7 months when we started solids. And he, I gave him scrambled eggs and he was fine. I was like, great, like perfect. He was fine. And then I gave it to him again because he wanted them, like he loved them. So like every like couple days we'd have eggs. And then one night we went to bed. I think he had them for dinner one night because I was just doing like a few foods at a time. And he like woke up. And so I went in and he started just like projectile vomiting, like projectile vomiting, this little baby. And so I called Paolo. I'm like, I don't know. And it wasn't stopping. And I had already like heard about it with during my first because I like deep dove into allergies. And I remember seeing somebody post about their child having FPIES and like a couple years prior. I didn't dive into it. And so I'm looking at symptoms. I'm like, okay, well, maybe he's allergic to eggs. Like maybe it's just an allergy reaction because that can be an initial food reaction. And so I just lied with him. And the poor guy, like he would stop, but then he would like, hiccup and like vial would come out. And it just went on for a few hours. I was ready to take him to the ER, but then he started nursing and he kind of like fell back to sleep. And then when he woke up in the morning, like it was like nothing happened.
Yes.
And I was like, what was that? And I was like, okay, well, maybe he does have this because then I'm like at 3 in the morning, like on my phone, Googling symptoms. And that was the main thing that came up. And then it happened again, like a couple days later with something else. So he was trialed for oats, eggs, and quinoa. So I was like, you know what? We have a doctor's appointment in a week. He had one of his checkups. I told my doctor, she was like, we're just going to send you to an allergist. She had no idea. I was like, I think it's F5. And she was like, what's that? And
Yes.
so a lot of medical professionals, unless they work specifically like allergists, they'll know. But a lot of general doctors, emergency, anybody, they don't necessarily know about this. And she was like, what is that? So like I basically had to explain to her what it was. And she booked us in with an allergist, and she was wonderful. Like they tested him for anaphylactic first, for dairy, for eggs, for everything. And then like we brought in food that he had had within that like, time frame. And he wasn't anaphylactic. And she's like, it sounds like FPIES. Here's like the ladder that you can do, avoid food until he's one, and then like start reintroducing it again. And then she gave us a medication to stop the vomiting. I think Zofran. So basically, what they give to chemo patients to stop the vomiting. And we did like I accidentally exposed him to it one time. He had meatloaf, and I wasn't even thinking that there's egg in it. So that was just another nightmare. And like I think we had accidentally exposed him like twice. And it's so scary. It is so scary because they just vomit until they're like out of it. Like they
Yes.
just kind of go lethargic and you're trying to get them. Like Noah never took a bottle. So like he's like crying and screaming. I'm trying to like nurse him and like give him water, but he was just not having it. And it was just like such a scary situation. But I will say having my allergist, she was just like so knowledgeable. She was super modern in a way that like her knowledge and how she treats things and how she handles the situation that I feel like it made me not that nervous to like continue the process. But like I said, if that was my first, I think it would have been a very different reaction on my end.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you at least like looked into it or found anything about it because with my son, it wasn't until he was like 8.5 months old. And I don't know if this would happen for you, but he would hiccup all the time and then start projectile
Yes.
vomiting that I
Yes.
would literally start getting anxiety. Anytime he hiccuped, I'd start saying, he's gonna throw up, he's gonna throw up, he's
He's
gonna throw
going to
up.
throw up.
And it was funny because, like, when they say a baby who won't stop crying, he would never stop hiccuping and he would throw up and he would have diarrhea up to 18 times a day.
That's
And
crazy.
I went to three different doctors, and they just kept telling me it's normal. He's a baby, he's breastfed, it's normal things. And then I finally brought him to a chiropractor. And I go in, my sister worked there, so I had a good rapport with her, basically, thinking this is a great person to go to. I remember thinking I got scammed because I go in telling her the symptoms, and she tells me it sounds like he has allergies. And I'm thinking in my head, you are a chiropractor. What do you mean he has allergies? Like, I want him to start sleeping better. I want him to have normal bowel movements and not throw up. And you're telling me he has allergies, but no medical doctor could say this. And she goes that this is like common symptoms of FPIES. And call my doctor and he goes, yeah, let me look into this. Okay. Sends me to an allergist. 2 weeks later, we get a diagnosis. And when I told him a chiropractor told us that maybe he has allergies, he even looked at me funny, like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And then with my daughter, I almost instantly knew right away, but hers is so much more severe. So even if I make a smoothie and I don't wash the cup out and then make myself one without dairy, she will have a reaction through breast milk.
Oh, wow.
Yes, so it's been super tough with her. We did finally get into an amazing allergist here in Ottawa, which again, I had an amazing experience with. But I guess because hers is so severe, they want her to go to a clinic where they give her an IV with Zofran and then give her the medication because I also didn't know. So the longer you wait to introduce them to foods, they're more at risk for anaphylactic.
Yeah.
And now I'm terrified.
That's what my allergist said. Because he had like he didn't have FPIES to dairy, but he would have severe eczema. And at that point it was fine because like he was nursing. But he like anytime I gave him yogurt or cheese, and she's like, you have to keep it in his diet. Like you have to keep these in his diet. You have to give him like peanuts. We always did, like we kept peanut butter. He thankfully like doesn't have any anaphylactic allergies, but she was so adamant that being like, you need to keep high allergen foods in your kids diets weekly, like if not almost daily. And
Yes.
even like my niece has a peanut allergy, anaphylactic. And she was like, even nowadays, she's like, there's tests and slow ways that you can do to slowly reintroduce it. Now, does it work for every person? No. But that's why she was just like, so knowledgeable on food allergies. And I feel like with my first, when I was, reading all the food allergy courses and doing all this research that you do with your first, like I don't ever remember reading about FIs. Like
Neither did I.
they read about anaphylactic symptoms, you read about like, okay, if you get rashes or they swell up or all this stuff, but I don't ever recall seeing that. I know now I have heard about it on like some pages that I've been following. Like they do talk about it now, but it's like, it's so weird. I feel like it's only happened in the last year. Like I truly don't ever have remembered hearing about it. And when I posted about it on my social media, the amount of people that are like, my child is experiencing this and I'm waiting for an allergist. It's like, oh my gosh, this has been happening to my kid. Like, I'm gonna call my doctor. Or I've experienced this, like we're going through it. Or they're like, I want to give you hope because my kids have outgrown it and now they're 5 and they can have this. Or like between like 5 and 7, a lot of times like they're able to have it. I know there's a few people who are like, I'm an adult and I still can't have certain things because like they didn't outgrow it. But there was just such an outreach of people experiencing it. And I just don't think it's spoken about enough. And like I said, if I was a first time mom and that happened, like it's scary. It is scary. And I even read, like, I joined an FPIES community group on Facebook, and a lot of like ER, if you take your kid to an ER, they're like, it's a stomach bug. It's food poisoning. Like no one knows that all they need is like an IV of fluids because your kid can get dehydrated. Like when I say like, like the vomiting, it's not just like spit up. It is
Yes.
like projectile nonstop for like 2 hours.
The thing with my daughter too, like her stomach will go in and out. Like, when a dog throws up, that's what I always explain to people because that's what happens to her and it's so scary.
So scary.
I've even waited in the hospital. So that's the thing. The allergist told us to start bringing her to the ER when she vomits more than twice. But I said that I've brought her when she vomited every single day for 19 days, and 10 hours later I was still waiting because they told me she had a bug. And I kept saying she has FPIES. And the allergist is like, well, you need to like push. And it's like, you can push, but when they don't even know what you're talking about, they
They
just look
don't
at you
care.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when he went into daycare, like I had to fill out a form. I had to get an extra like medication of the Zofran to give them. I had to do all this, but I was like, thankfully, my daycare director was like, you know what? We have had one child in the past who has had FPIES here. So she was like a little familiar with it, which I think we are very, very lucky with. But on the Facebook community I joined, they had a bunch of like downloadable documents. And it was like, basically, it was like a printout to give to people that will be like handling your child, or like if you do have to call ER, to give it to like the ambulance or whatever to explain what it is, because the amount of people don't know. And that was really helpful. And I sent that all my family. I was like, you guys need to read about it. I don't need you to like hardcore investigate in it, but I sent them like a couple documents and like the foods just to like completely avoid, because they were watching, my kids part time while I was at work because they're in part time daycare. And then the other days would be split with my mom and my mother in law because they're retired. So I was like, here's all the information. Like I sent it to like literally everyone in my family that was going to be like around my kids.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, like, it could be from 2 hours to 6 hours before you have a reaction. It's not instant. So, like, you have the hiccups, which could be like it's going to happen, or it could just be they have hiccups. But it's such a delayed reaction. And if you give them more than one food, you're like, I don't, until you know exactly what their trigger foods are, like, and there's no way to test what they are. You don't know. And you basically have to be like Russian roulette. Like, here's a food. Let's see what happens.
See, that's what happened with us because I didn't know what it was that was causing it. And the chiropractor was like, make a list. And she was giving me, she's like, soy's usually one, dairy's one, all eggs one, and all of that. And then I was so scared to start introducing things. But the other thing that I noticed is that some companies change their ingredients often. So one day you look at a soup, it doesn't have dairy. Then the next week you go, it might have dairy.
Yeah, and you just don't know what it is. You have no idea. And people are like, "Well, okay, you get tested." I'm like, "There's no test. There is no test. It could literally be any food because it's the food protein. It could be which like there's less common like broccoli or something like that, but it happens. But it could literally be anything."
Did you have to cut out the stuff as well because you were breastfeeding?
I did, like, to a certain extent. He would have some, like, days where if I had, like, too much dairy, like, he would get more spit up, like, he never had a full reaction, but I would notice, like, he would be spitting up a lot more. So I was like, "Okay, we're gonna cut back on that." Um, but, like, I did stop eating eggs. The dairy, I didn't completely stop because he wasn't FPIES to it, but, like, oats and all that I did cut out. But we only had to wait like 6 months before we had to start retrialing, which is also like a whole other ballgame where you're basically just like poisoning your child and like hoping that nothing happens.
That's me right now.
Yeah, but now he won't eat eggs. He doesn't want them. So he can go up until as a binder. So he's okay with like waffles and like all of that, but he won't eat eggs. So like I've had to like mix them into something, but I don't feel like he's had enough like raw egg to know. Like maybe I'll try mayo, but I think he doesn't want to eat like a couple tablespoons of the food. Like you just don't know.
So with my son, he outgrew it around 2.5, I think, and then by 3, we would give it to him. But also with my daughter being so allergic, we don't really eat those foods as a family because we don't want her to eat it. Especially when the younger one sees food, they just want it, they don't care.
They just grab.
Yes, like even if she grabs, I feel like dairy or egg, she gets welts. So there's just so many things that it's like I thought she for sure had an IG allergy, but I was terrified. But she's also too small to get the Zofran at home. So they have to be above a certain weight, I guess. And she's literally
Okay.
tiny. She's not even 18 pounds, I don't think, and she's 18 months old.
Oh
So
wow, little
she was
baby.
saying that, yeah. So she was saying I have to bring her to the ER, but I'm like, I'm not going to wait 10 hours every single time just to get the
It's
medication.
not worth it. It's not. Like I mean, yes it is, but like, what are you gonna do? Have her vomit the whole time? Like, that they don't even take it seriously because 'cause they're like, "She has the flu, she has a bug," like, it's very frustrating, and I just think, like, it's just one of those other things to add to the list where we have to just like, advocate so, so hard, but also not always be taken seriously and, like, don't know what we're talking about.
Yes, and motherhood's hard, and I feel like too that so many people don't recognize that everyone's motherhood journey is different.
Yeah,
And it's like
yeah.
not one person experiences motherhood the same as somebody else.
No. Even, like, yourself, though. Even, like, yourself as a mom when you have more than 1 kid, it is, like, relearning everything. Like, I don't know, like, for me, like, my kids are so opposite. Like, they slept differently, they had different temperaments, like, Noah was super colicky, but it makes sense once I found out what it was, and, like, colicky, there's an underlining factor. It's not just they're fussy, like there's something about it. And like obviously now in hindsight, we now know it was probably because of the FIs and like what I'm consuming. But even yeah, like every person's different and like your motherhood is different every time you have a new child. It's crazy.
Yes, and that's the thing that you're never I've always heard this saying that 2 kids don't have the same parents
Yeah.
because you're getting them in different stages, right? So I've always wondered like what that really looks like from the parents' perspective. Because my parents had 3 kids. So I wondered what they looked like before I was a baby. So I wonder how they parented with my oldest brother or my sister, you know?
Yeah, I know. And I sometimes feel guilty because like I definitely my patience, I'm working on it. Like I am getting better. Like my patience is a lot more thinner now than it was as a baby with my first because you're just like, "Ooh, la, 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 la." And I'm like, did I do that enough with Noah? Because I also had a 2.5-year-old. And then you're like, wow, now am I being too stern with like my oldest because like I'm overstimulated with like this 2-year-old wanting to climb on me when he also wants me to like play because even though they're close in age, they play differently. They want different things. Now it's getting better, which is like it's getting like on a quote unquote on the easier side, but there's still days where you're just like, I'm gonna pull my hair out. But this is why like I leave my house. Like I leave my house for the morning almost every day. Like, I just it's easier, like, the energy, like, it's just like, let's especially now that the weather's nicer, like, I'm like, "We need to get out of the house," because if we're in the house, it's just like a combustion just waiting to happen.
No, it's
Or we
true.
go in the backyard or the front yard, like, I have a mud table, my kids are like, people are always like, "How do you let your kids play like that?" Like, it would drive me nuts because 'cause they're, like, muddy, they're playing with the hose, they're wet, and I'm just like, "Because everyone's happy." Like, I can sit here and they're just, like, rolling in the mud, like, you know what? All the power to you, it's fine. We just go upstairs, we take a bath, like, it is what it is. But I just think, like, with the second one, I've just learned to, like, let go. Like, it's fine to let them play like that, and I find it actually makes it easier because they have an outlet where it's, like, uncontrolled play, because whether we like to admit it or not, we control their play when all the time.
Yes, it's true. It is so
We
true.
do, and I catch myself doing it because, like, I hate sitting on the floor and playing for more than, like, 10 minutes.
I'm guilty of it too, and I think it's so hard because you wanna be the mom that's the best and plays with them all the time, but, like, I don't wanna play with dinosaurs, you know?
No, or they'll be like, "Let's play with cars and have a race and, like, race around the house," and I'm like, "How about we just, like, race right here like this? Because like, I don't wanna crawl around on the floor, like, it's not fun for me."
No,
So,
that
it
is
just,
so
like I
true.
think, like, unstructured play is so important for them, and, like, it just makes it easier. It makes parenting my partner's pretty good with it, but again, he you can tell sometimes he's like, "Oh, that's really messy," and I'm like, "It's fine, just, like, take their clothes off on the deck. If they need to take a bath, bring them upstairs, like, it's fine." Like, floors can be cleaned, babies can be cleaned, clothes can like, it's fine, and it just makes my life easier.
Like, I think too that once you get to that point in parenting, it becomes like an upwards hill that you think that once you let go, everything's gonna go to shit, but then you realize this is okay. Like, we are all okay, you know?
Everyone's okay, and I set boundaries, don't get me wrong, like, there are boundaries set, but I'm also, like I'm not lenient with certain boundaries, like, there are things that are, like, in stone, and it's more about, like, are they gonna hurt themselves? Probably not, they're fine. Like, my kids now like to climb and jump off tall things, like, that's just what they do, that's, like I don't know, so I'm like, "Okay," and, like, that's been the hardest part for me, but there's, like we set boundaries, we do, like, natural consequences, like, I don't know, maybe it's a bit like some people don't always do that. Like, I know they call it gentle parenting. It's not gentle necessarily. It's just not like yelling at your kid or like threatening them. But like it makes it so much easier for parents that are with their kids all day to just do it in my opinion that way. There's less power struggles. Everyone's having a great time. I'm sitting on my deck drinking my coffee and they're like doing their thing. They're fine. It's fine. Everyone will be okay.
What would you say was the biggest surprise to you when you entered motherhood?
I think like A, I realize I'm a lot more lazy than I anticipated. Like I like being in my bed. I like sitting and doing that. And also just the guilt of like too much screen time, not too much screen time. Like the guilt of again because of social media and just like having to deal with that personally and like internal triggers that now you have to realize. And I feel like that didn't come much at the with the first. Like I feel like those triggers started happening more with the second because there's a lot more going on. And it's like having to basically like deal with that while also being like present for your kids and like setting that expectation for them.
Yeah, I think it's harder because you always become the parent you always thought you would never be, I wanna say, that you don't know who you're gonna become until you're that person.
Yeah.
But one last question I wanted to ask was what's one of those things that get you through it because I think everyone has something different, but I think it helps other parents and other moms, especially when they're in the thick of it, see things as a glimmer opposed to as a trigger.
Yeah. Um, I you know what, when I am in, like, a moment well, there's a few things. It's I think when you have, a oldest child that's getting older, you realize, like, they're getting older and, like, this is their childhood, and, like, they're only this little for so long that, like, I want them to look back and be like, "Wow, my mom, like, was really fun," or, "My mom was, like, really calm. My mom really loved me. My mom was there for me." And then just, like, I look back at pictures of them when they're, like if I look back at my oldest and I see, like, a little one-year-old boy, I'm like, "He's still that little boy." And, like, I don't know, it does go by fast, and I just think you need to people always say, like, "Enjoy it while you can, it blink like, it goes fast," and, like, that's kinda what I'm saying, but not in a negative way. Like, just it does go by fast, and, like, even if you only have a 3 hours a day with them because 'cause you're working Monday to Friday, like, make those 3 hours, like, the best that you can because they just grow up so fast. Like, I look at my oldest hands, and he, like, doesn't have little dimples anymore, you know? And it's just, like, I just try to remember that they're little kids and, like, you're their person. You're their person. And that's what it is. I don't know. I just try to like fully immerse myself. A lot of people will be like, motherhood doesn't define me, but like motherhood defines me. And like that's how I try to live the life, even though there's days where I like freak out. I also tell my kids I'm getting frustrated or I'm getting mad and I'm going to walk away for a second.
Yeah, but I think it's healthy. I think it's healthy for children to see that, okay, you can be mad, you can be frustrated, but then you regulate yourself and you come back.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think our society again deems it like you're a bad parent if you yell at your kids. You're a bad parent if you walk away for 5 minutes, you
Yeah,
know?
I do lose my own sort of my cool. Like I do lose my cool sometimes. But repent and repair is something I also keep in my mind. I heard it somewhere. I don't know, it's all over the internet, but like repent and repair. You can freak out at your kids, but once you're calm and the situation's done, I always apologize. Whether I'm rushing them in the morning and I get in the car and I'm like, you know what? I'm really sorry. Mommy was feeling frustrated and overwhelmed and I raised my voice or I made you like whatever it was. But I'm like, I shouldn't have done that. And next time, like, I'll deal with it better. And like, I think that is so important to remember. And then something else was like, 33% of your parenting should be great parenting, 33% should be good, and 33% should be saying sorry. And I just think
I
you don't
like that.
isn't that so good? Yeah, like, you don't have to be perfect, like, it's literally impossible. We are still like, we're not robots, but I think it's okay to have those moments, but I think what's important is, like, the repairing because that's what's gonna, like, affect their attachment. It's not yelling at them, like, we don't wanna yell at our kids, but, like, acknowledging and, like, owning up to it also creates, like, emotionally aware children. It's like, that's my goal in life, especially raising boys. Like, you need to own up to your emotions, and, like, that's what it is. So, like, it's okay. Whether it looks like we're not all going through it, we are. It's just the reality.
Well, I honestly I appreciate it so much for you sharing your experience. And even just like when people see you on social media, like they see that there is more to than just like this perfect life that somebody lives,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, well,
Well, thank
thanks
you for
for
having
coming
me.
on.
I mean, this was amazing. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Busy Mom Talk.